Hello and welcome to Frozen Star Gaming. So, on tonight's episode, we're going to be putting together, priming, and beginning to paint Gieor Fellhand. Now, just a little housekeeping. My Space Wolves are about half done, and my Thousand Suns are maybe a quarter done. So, we're getting close. We're getting on to where we need to be to start getting this in, in and going. But now here we cut out the pieces. The way I do it is I cut out with the X-Acto knife. For me, this is just a little bit more convenient because I can immediately cut out this piece and then scrape off the sprue gate and the mold line. There is no rule saying how to do it. This is just how I like to do it. But with all your models, just be careful to go around and get as many of the mold lines as you can, because when you dry brush as you're painting, it can leave some undesired effects that make it look more like a toy than like what we're aiming for of diorama quality miniatures. Now, here we move on to gluing everything together. With this, you want to be careful because there I'm using the Citadel plastic glue. If you don't be careful, you can very easily end up leaving fingerprints in the plastic, and that will look horrible. I speak from experience. Now, right here, you see me dry fitting the bolt rifle. It hangs from a chain over his shoulder, and the slot that it fits into was a little finicky, so I had to figure out exactly how it went, but it took me a second, and then here I added the glue. Then I got it in place, got it wedged nicely into the groove, and set it aside to dry, and went on to assembling the rest of the miniature and scraping off more mold line that I forgot. But just this model went together pretty easy, maybe 15 minutes between dealing with my son. What I like about the horus heresy miniatures is they go together very easily. It's not much different than the old firstborn tactical marine sets, but slightly better detailed. They go together quick, fast, and in a hurry, and they look pretty dang nice in the process. Now, we're going to go ahead and take this on outside, and here in just a moment, I'll have it primed for you. Now we get into the fun part. I use the Army Painter XL wet palette. If you have not tried a wet palette, I highly recommend it. That gold right there is from 3 days before the filming of this, and it has lasted for quite a while. Now, I don't really keep a particular painting bill. I will do better in the future, but this I kind of just mix until I get where I feel it's good to get my gray with a blue undercoat color for the armor on this. Once I get the color where I like it or where I think it needs to be, I'll give it a try and then give the entire model a base coat. One of the best parts about using a wet palette is if you keep your palette properly hydrated, it will thin down your paint for you. I use just the bog standard wax paper sheets on top of everything, and it lets through about the perfect amount of water as long as I've got the right amount of water in the reservoir. It's one of those things you kind of just have to figure out by feel, but once you get there, you will be good for about ever. Now here I'm going across the model, getting a nice smooth coat, and kind of trying to avoid all of the spots that won't be this gray blue. And here you'll see me get guided back onto camera from the offside. And it's right about here that I get tired of the small brush and shift to the two sizes, I think, larger brush to cover faster. The majority of the body, excluding the head, I just decided that we were going to go ahead and give everything a good solid coat. That way I couldn't miss any spots and have trouble trying to get into with the micro crevice to fill in a gray spot that I missed at the beginning. So that is one way to do it. Just get everything, that way you can't miss anything. And you may have noticed there, I do wipe my brush on my shirt. If you're doing your own laundry, that's fine. If somebody else does your laundry for you, please don't do that. It is incredibly hard to get out. And if you're, like I said, if you're doing it yourself, that's fine. But if you're not, please don't do that to other people. Now, one of the problems that I've noticed with the wet palette, if you use or are a little too rough with the paper, it can kind of like buckle through, and then it will absorb the paint down into the sponges beneath, which that can be a real pain in the butt. And you can either move over to a new spot or start a whole new sheet of the paper, which I think here in a minute you'll see me change papers. Because for some reason, some of them just don't have good surface coverage, and it's just not good for holding paint sometimes. Quality control is important, and sometimes on the less important things, stuff gets through. Now, here I move on to starting to block in the black aspects of this miniature, which for the most part are the soft parts of the armor and the two wolf heads coming off the power pack where the heat comes out. These are fairly easy to reach, about all of them, and pretty nice for painting detail. even though I'm going to do just a simple black with 2 levels of gray highlighting, nothing fancy on them. I'm just trying to belt this out and get it down the road. This is not one of my Golden Demon her entries, even though eventually I will have one of those. Now here you'll see me realize that I've missed a spot right there next to his neck, and I go back in, grab some of the gray-blue paint, and fill in the last spot that I see. When that happens, and it's definitely a when, not an if, don't worry about it, just go ahead and throw in the little bit of paint needed, and then move back to what you were doing. And now here I move on to the case of the bolter. The case and grip will be black, and the rest of it will be silver, except for the writing in the case of the bolter that I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do. And here I just go back through and go back over any spots that are a little too thin still and any spots that I may have missed. Giving the claws a base coat on fell hand and just getting everything looking nice and uniform so that we can move on to more of the detail. And now we move into blocking in all the brown. I'm going to start speeding up the video now so that this isn't a 2-hour video, although it's already getting on there to 17 minutes. Here I've gotten the tassels and starting to get in the wolf pelt. Get everything a good coating of uniform brown. For this I'm using the Mournfang brown from the Citadel range. Doing this on all of the tassels, the pelt, and I'll use the Mournfang brown as the base color for his hair. Just want to go all the way around and make sure I have a nice consistent base coat for future work, highlights and shade and all that. And here I move on to getting all the silver metallic bits, the knife, the pipes on the chest, and several other spots. I'm not going to do non-metallic metal in this project at all because that just takes too much time and I need to get better at that before I start showing it off. So you'll see we get a nice coat on all the chest parts and across the blade just to make it look snazzy and silver. Get the bolt mag and the metal bits on the bolter and of course the pieces on the backpack. And now I'll move on to the metallics, starting with silver. Now, over to Truck Driver Sam. I'm going to go ahead and cut this video off here and I'll show you the finished product here after a while. But this video covers my basic process, how I get everything done. And hopefully you enjoy the video. Thank you for joining me today. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Any feedback you have, I very much look forward to getting. And I will see you on the next video.